All right. I know that everybody can see us, but we can't see anybody. So we just have to wait for this really, I call it like a really awkward moment. And now I can see, okay, so now I can see all of you. So I'm going to go live. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Interactive Notebooks and the Neurodivergent Learner with Jennifer Weibert from Weibert Science, who has an amazing training and modules and an intro ebook and so many resources to teach you all how to use interactive notebooks in the classroom. And I'm so excited to talk about them because as a neurodivergent learner, I love color coding and like the different pockets that I used to make in the interactive notebooks and just all the possibilities with like sketching and mind mapping and that. So like this is a neurodivergent learner's dream is interactive notebooks. So Jennifer, can you tell us just a little bit about you starting out?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Weibert from Weibert Science. Super excited to be here today because notebooks are my passion, and they have been for about 25 years. So, my journey starting out is I started out as a science teacher. My degree is in science, and I started teaching junior high. And I didn't think I would land there. I thought I wanted high school, and I landed in junior high. And oh my gosh, I just loved it. I love the mind of a junior higher and how every day it's different depending on their emotions and all this stuff. So with that, I soon realized that a junior high mind is often disorganized and all over the place. And so, how could I help kids learn science better and help them organize better? So, I started my journey using interactive science notebooks way back when. And it's just evolved over these 25 years to be something that is just so good for all students. And so now I get to go train around the world really with interactive notebooks and just getting kids to be able to process content better. And what's really cool is I've stepped out of my science world too, because these notebooks and the strategies for them are good for all subjects, for all students.
So I love the fact that you mention middle schoolers organizing information and like just the average the neurotypical middle schooler with the hormones and the emotions and like the varying focus and interest, they have a really hard time organizing. um, and when you add neurodivergency on top of that, it's just like a whirlwind. And that's why you see a lot of neurodivergent individuals struggle most when in middle school and as they approach high school because the cognitive load is just so much heavier.
Mhm.
So can you elaborate a little bit more on that and how does or how do interactive notebooks help the learner organize the information versus traditional note taking?
Yes. So the interactive notebook really helps students put everything in one spot and not all over the place. It's not in random folders that we collect and do these things with. It's in one spot in the notebook. And compared to a binder system, it's harder to rip things out of a notebook than to take things in and out of a binder where they can also get lost. So that's why I really love using a nice big 8.5 by 11 full size notebook for students because it all goes in one spot no matter what I'm doing in the classroom. Everything belongs there.
So how do you organize the the notebook so that you don't need the binders and the folders? How does that replace all of that?
It replaces it all because as a teacher, I sit there and I think through what am I doing, right? I plan out what I'm teaching and what pieces need to go in that notebook to give success to the learner. There's some things that don't go in there for doing student discourse or working on large whiteboards. Like we don't capture necessarily everything. Some things can live outside of that, but their processing and their thinking should show in that notebook. And I like to structure that out following a good learning sequence. So I understand what's showing up on the page and can scaffold students to understand what needs to show up on the page in the notebook.
So would you say that there's more student autonomy in interactive notebooks,
Oh, yes.
more than typical?
Absolutely. Like if you want to take just, looking at an average worksheet that's given, usually there's no autonomy there, right? We're just filling
Mhm,
in the same words. We come up with the same exact answers and they all look the same.
mhm.
If we can take that worksheet and transform it over onto a page in a notebook by using Telegram templates, let's say templates, we're going to use some templates there. And with that, I can structure what's going to show up on a page for a student to then put their own twist on how they have learned the content, and they're not just filling in blanks anymore.
So with the templates, is that something that you provide?
Yes, that is one of the things that I really train on with teachers. How do we move away from worksheets and get templates out to students so that way they know exactly what you want? It's the funny thing with teachers. Sometimes we think we really explain the assignment well and we hand it out, and then it's like they're staring at us like they don't understand what we just said, right? And then a
Uh-huh.
million questions come in and it's frustrating. But if we really sit down as a teacher and think through a template and what's going to go on the page. And so I tell teachers it's two things. We never want to assign a blank page in a notebook. It's so overwhelming to kids,
Mm,
right? It's just a lot of space and they don't know what really is supposed to go there. So if I can show them how to use their space, right? It's this many lines and we're making a box, and inside this box, this is what needs to show up. And so it's how to set up the space and then what goes in the space, right? Those two things, when we template out, give huge success to students to follow instructions, but yet gives them permission to process in their own unique way, hopefully with pictures and color,
mhm.
and it brings out their learning. And I get to now see what's in their brain in their own unique way.
Yeah, in their own voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanna take that with and run with it, with the color and, the, element of art and design that is incredibly powerful for neurodivergent learners, is to be able to color code, visually organize. They call it multisensory approaches to learning, right? Using you can use noises or music, the folding techniques that you see in some interactive notebooks, or origami, the color coding, the drawing. Um, with your system, what all is used? How like multisensory does it get?
It can go as much as you want for the teacher. And I think that's what's so great about the system I train with is that your style of teaching matches with the notebooking, right?
Mhm,
And so there's no wrong answer in that. What I commonly see though is I can look through a student's notebook and it's very little worksheets and it's student created processing and sense making with color, with picture. We really encourage kids to have those colored pencils, to outline in black ink pops. Their work just pops. It's almost like I'm asking kids to be a graphic artist of their content, right? And as teachers, it's something like we think kids don't want to do and we maybe shy away from it, but kids want to do that. Like, what other
mhm,
class gives them permission to roll out some tools to use, the pencils,
mhm.
the pens, the whatever, and actually process where there's really no wrong answer as long as we're covering the content, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why if you want to put a foldable in, great. You want to do some origami with it on the page, great. If you just want to draw some boxes for a template and have them think in the box and show in the box what they know, also great. Which I think relieves a lot of stress for teachers is that there's really no right way as long as we're using some of the proven techniques of color coding, drawing to help emphasize and move information from short term to long term memory when we
Mhm.
use the color and the pictures with the text. Then you're on the right path and you can be as creative with it as you want.
So, how would you suggest that teachers um, check for understanding using? the interactive notebooks?
Check for understanding. So one of the things, there's a couple ways actually. I love using large whiteboards. I don't know if you've ever used those in your class, the 2 foot by 3 foot whiteboards that are for group work, not the small individual ones.
Mhm.
And so if I can get them to work on a whiteboard before they go to paper, right, I can catch a lot of misconceptions or guide them on the proper path that they maybe misunderstood from my assignment instructions or template, right? That would be one way. Another way for checking for understanding is to just have kids be able to share notebooks with each other and talk through assignments and see how their work differs. I think there's one cool thing with notebooks is uh, we know from research that anytime we can make student thinking public, where
Mhm.
they have to share their thinking and not just keep it to themselves, right? It just elevates what they know of your content. And so if I can take a notebook page that we've all been working on, but yet you have the freedom to make it your own to a certain degree, right? And get up and walk around with notebooks and just have them check for understanding with what they know on the page and talk to each other. It's a win-win. Student discourse is up, they're out of their seats, and they have to make their thinking public, which then means we really should do the assignment because someone else is going to see it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, um have you dealt with perfectionism?
Oh, yes. Yes. I have. You know, you tell kids they can draw and that they need to have these boxes, and, OCD can come out
Yep.
galore on this.
Mhm.
Um, and so we really try to it's not about the art, it's about the content
Mm.
is a focus on this. And it might take those kids a little bit longer to let go and realize it's okay if it's not perfect. And I mean, we can erase. There's these things out there, have you ever seen the see-through post-it notes?
Mhm.
To put those on because we had a first thought and realized maybe it wasn't right. And so I want to put a second thought, but not get rid of my first thought. Put the clear post-it note on and show me your new thinking, right?
Mm.
So yeah, there's techniques out there to help kids who really, want to be
Struggle.
perfect at everything.
Yep. Yeah, anxiety.
Yes.
Uh, so what are the biggest problems you see interactive notebooks solving for teachers?
For teachers, believe it or not, I think it's huge time management for them. So if we learn how to notebook in such a way where we're not just running photocopies and gluing things in, no longer have to go search for worksheets, and you no longer have to stand at the copier making copies,
Mhm.
passing out the paper, and we get rid of the cutting and gluing, right? That can take up 10 minutes of class time, and then there's trash around the class. And then kids cut it wrong and need to start over. Like, let's just eliminate that and let's go straight to the notebook and let's learn how to template better to get your assignments to show up. Let's just say on a screen, right? On a Google Doc, whatever you're doing, that kids then have access to understand what's going to be put on their page. And it can save hours and hours of time. I have teachers tell me they can teach a whole nother unit that they weren't ever getting in because notebooking this way saves them so much time.
That's that's really interesting because I didn't think about how much time you do spend searching for worksheets.
Mhm.
Like, you spend
Yes.
so much time, and if you could just always that every kid has a notebook. We're
Yes.
going to use a page in the notebook, we'll pull a template, they already know what to do, and that is gonna save a lot of time and energy.
A lot of time. And plus, then kids, the anxiety levels go down. Like they get this template and they understand what to do, and they're not just staring at a worksheet wondering what gets filled in there sometimes, right? So I just reduce anxiety. And when I talk with teachers about note taking, especially because that's a big thing I'm on, sometimes the way we take notes is still so like, there could be a better way, right?
Mhm.
And I really believe adding that color and the pictures to note taking is a huge thing. I use the term sketchnoting with it. And with that, kids take notes. We know that. How often do you think they go back and read those notes and understand what they just wrote?
Right.
It's usually not often. So
Mhm.
we get frustrated. We spend all this time taking notes for then students to never read them or use them. And so why not have them sketch note their notes where they're forced to go back and read and make sense, bringing in color and picture to show that they understood the text, right? And that all shows up on one page in a notebook together, and it complements the text with the color and the picture. And I can then walk around a room and see that they did understand this piece based off the pictures they chose and how they interpreted the text.
Do you have an example so people know what you're talking about when you say, template?
I do have an example of that.
Yeah.
Um, if you go over to my Instagram, I have
Yeah.
tons of student work
Okay.
that you can look at and see that every single page that I'm showing in those notebook pages is templated out and using sketchnoting, the color, picture, text method.
Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna put that in the chat. If you want an example, head to Weibert Science, right?
Yes.
And she has a ton of student examples. And that is, I think, like, I'm a very visual learner. And of course, I've seen all of your work, right?
Yes.
Because Jen and I go way back. But the viewers haven't. So
Yeah, go take it
so
out. Over on my website, I even have videos. If you're that visual, you want to see a video flip through of what several pages look like, so you can kind of get an idea of what does a week's worth of this look like, right?
mm.
I have notebook videos over there for you to go view too.
So what advice do you have to teachers who want to start?
Yes, you can start small. This does not have to be overwhelming to you. And I think when I talk to teachers about notebooking, there's this often thought of big, overwhelming. It's going to take so much time, and I don't even know where to start. Right? Let me give you an example of an easy way to start. Like, just go get some 11 by 17 paper and fold it in half and staple it and go run through the next few weeks trying out a notebook, right? You don't have to invest and go buy and spend money on those yet. And every unit, you can just do 11 by 17 papers, right? And give it a nice cover page on it and use that to get through. I'll tell you, there's something about using a blank page compared to a lined page that students love. It takes away limits, right? Those
Mhm,
lines limit and it takes it away. And I'm actually more creative when I have blank paper compared to lined paper.
mhm.
So, something to think about. So, like getting started, I would say go do that. Get some 11 by 17 paper, fold it in half, and get going. And then I think your next step is you really could just take what you already do and add some color and some pictures to the processing. Okay. Um, but if you're ready to go for it, you can learn how to template and we can get rid of those worksheets. And the work shows up right on the notebook page. And you can stop with the copies and get that sense making at such a deeper level than you're getting with the worksheet.
So while you were talking, I was thinking like formative assessments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is a formative assessment.
It really is.
Like,
It really
yeah.
is, right? You want to talk about the correlation between a well done notebook and what they do on a summative test for you, right?
Mhm,
Study time is cut down tremendously because if you think about it, if they're processing and sense making at a deep level on the page instead of a surface level, they can cut down on the amount of time that they need to go study because they're actually imprinting it in their head. I once
mhm,
interviewed kids about these notebooks and they said, "Man, they're a lot of work, but it makes a visual impression in my head and I actually remember and know it." And right there it's worth it for them to be
mhm.
taught in this way and allowed to process in this way.
Yeah. Well, when they're working with, like, the multi-sensory, the
Mhm.
color, the textures, the folding,
Yep,
um, they're using more areas of their brain while they're processing the knowledge.
that is true.
So, it's, the more areas that are wired together, like, it's gonna go into the long-term memory easier. So, um, neuro think we had a really good conversation.
We
I think we
did.
covered it pretty well. What is your call to action, Jen? What should their next steps be?
Yeah. So I have a couple different options for you. I am holding a free masterclass next Monday on 11/25, and you can sign up for that. It'll be via Zoom. And you just need to sign up and put your email in so I can send you the link to that. You can find it over on my Instagram or on my website. Um, and then if you're like, okay, yeah, but I'm really ready to go, then I highly suggest you pick up a copy of my ebook. It's going to teach you how to notebook, how to sketch note, how to template. And that right there just sets you up. I have teachers who tell me it dramatically changed their teaching forever with just a few simple techniques. Like, spend an hour with me in that ebook and it'll change what you do tremendously, all for the good for you, for time saving and efficiency, and for the students being able to process in their own ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. And every teacher loves a good ebook.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's colorful. I made sure.
All right, Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you all have any questions for Jen, you can hop on either to her Instagram or her website. Her Instagram is at Weibert Science, which you can see on the screen, and her her website is weibertscience.com, right?
It is.
Awesome. Easy peasy.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
That was fun. I like to nerd out.
It was fun.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to it's just post, and I might take the recording and make it a podcast episode.
Mm,
I don't know because I haven't really pursued podcasts on my own yet.
okay.
Oh wait,
It's still live.
I am still live?
Yep.
Oh, I ended it on Instagram. It's on YouTube. Now it should be good.
Still live.